car crash, and then we went up to Mount Humuzang Mongluk. We had a comment here, Bev Test. Chris, do you all know any info on the vehicle from the accident? We only know that it was a light-colored sedan, according to Sabrina Salsventanani. But she's on her way back in, so we will definitely try and get more info from her. But the info was slow coming because the accident had just happened. And, okay, I got a picture here. Wow. I'm going to put this in the chat, Jay. As we're now starting to see people are heading southbound on Marine Corps Drive there, so they're snapping pictures of the vehicle. You see that, Mike? Okay, Jay's going to get that. 712. We could just bust in, but we don't want to keep Daph waiting on this Good Friday morning. Dafne Shimizu. Yes, they're working over at Reventak. So first, thank you for your service, Daph. Good morning.
Oh, no. I want to thank my team and actually for all of the first responders, and whether they were tier 1, tier 2, we had so many frontliners during this public health emergency. So thanks to all our frontliners, thanks to everybody who's been out there to just try to help our community, but also want to shout out to my team who's been really out here for the last at least couple of months trying to make sure that we have some level of organization as people come into our office. So good morning. But good morning, Chris. Good morning, Jason. Good morning, Guam.
Daph, let's just get right into it then. Everybody wants to know the status of the next stimulus, the stimmy, as my friends call it.
So, as you know, we've been in discussions with the IRS regarding what's now being called the IP3, which is really the third round of stimulus payments that has been enacted or authorized during this public health emergency. What I can say is that we have we were able to review a draft of our implementation plan document. We met with the IRS yesterday morning to discuss it. We did have some comments on the plan, so we provided those comments to the IRS. I'm going to be following up with my counterpart on those comments this morning and questions that we had to see where we are. I hadn't, as of this morning, had received comments from them, but my counterpart in Washington D.C. actually does work like late their time. So I mean, even when it's late our time, she's still operating and operational there. But this morning I'm going to be communicating with her. What I also what's exciting is that we actually were approved for about $200 million in EIP3 payments, and that's huge for us because that's about the same amount of money that we had actually paid out for both EIP 1 and 2 so far. So we paid about $230 million in EIP 1 and 2. We were approved for about $200 million. So again, that's hugely exciting. And, we're hopeful that we will be able to complete our discussions with the IRS. We were hopeful that we would be able to complete them today, but perhaps we may end up working through the weekend to, again, make sure that we get the plan final. And just like with EIP2, from the time that we get the approved plan, what happens is, of course, then the IRS and the Treasury will work to execute or transmit the monies to Guam. And from there, we do, and in fact, we've been communicating with our programmers for our system just to make sure that we program all of the different adjustments or changes, with regards to this particular stimulus plan, so that way we can begin some testing and work to get payments out as soon as possible. So, when we did EIP2, again, the message is pretty much the same, that from the time that the plan is approved, within a couple of weeks, we should be able to get payments out to our people. And of course, we target to try to get payments in well before then. But, again, there is some level of testing that's involved with our programming. And of course, there is the transfer of the funding from the Treasury that also has to happen.
Daph, do you have, and I know you just explained the whole process, but just to make it simple for people, when should they start checking the mail?
So, again, once we do have the plan approved, we expect that within a couple of weeks that payments should be going out. So, if we're able to get the plan approved, in the next week, then again, count a couple weeks from there, within a couple of weeks. And once we start paying, we will advise people. there's some level of programming that has to be involved. There's certain testing that has to be involved. And of course, the monies get transmitted to Guam, prior to us making any payments. So within a couple of weeks from the plan being approved, people can expect to begin receiving those payments.
All right. Hear that, guys? Couple weeks.
And we're really, honestly, Chris, we're really hopeful. Like I said, we, even in the last 2 rounds of EIP, we worked, through weekends. And, our team last year, we worked on Mother's Day. We even worked on Easter weekend. I think that last year, Easter was like around April 13 or so. So, we worked through our weekends and, just to make sure that we get payments out. And our commitment, to make payments to our people has been unwavering. I think, you'll see that in, of course, our actions. In March 19 was the last day that we had to make payments for EIP2. We did our best to get as many payments out to our people before then. And the next week after that, which was last week, we worked to make payments for the for 2020 returns, and that was our first round of 2020 refunds that we had made payments on. So that was hugely exciting, and that was about $5.8 million that we paid out last week. So, again, we've been just working, doing our best to make sure that whether it's EIP2 or refunds, that we're working to make payments to our people.
Daph, what about the earned income tax credit? I know that there was some info that came down from the nation's capital about that. What does that mean locally for people who file and normally get this tax credit?
Well, so with regards to the earning income tax credit, already our Guam residents who file with Guam Revenue Tax, we do. If you qualify, you already do get the EITC. Now, what is going to happen, or what is changing now, is that these funds are going to be they're going to be reimbursed to the government of Guam. Basically, this was an unfunded mandate. So although it is in the code, and although we have been working to follow the code so that way we can make payments to our people, this is monies that hasn't been reimbursed to Guam for, this particular mandate. And this is huge and significant because, as you know, the amount of EITC is generally over $50 million. So, in this next year, when people file their 2021 tax returns in next year, we'll be able to see some level of reimbursement. Again, that's based on our review of the American Rescue Plan Act. Something that's also different, which we haven't yet opened up discussions on with regards to the American Rescue Plan Act, is there is also a provision there for the child tax credit. And there is, of course, in the continental United States, the rollout will be, there's going to be an advanced portion of the child tax credit that's going to be paid out between July and December. And then, another portion of it's going to be paid out when you file your 2021 tax return. We haven't finalized the discussions on that. We actually haven't even opened up discussions on that because our focus is EIP3, but we will be discussing that. And that is huge as well, because the amount of the child tax credit also has increased. And again, where we were not receiving reimbursement for the child tax credit, we're going to be, and I have to clarify, the amount of the child tax credit has increased for 1 year only, based on the American Rescue Plan Act. But, that increase, or that amount that we're going to be getting, or that we're going to be paying out now, is going to be reimbursed, at least, again, for this year, at that elevated rate. So, all of those are really exciting things for us, because again, with regards to EITC, that's something that, of course, has been a huge amount of monies that has been paid out of our general fund. We're excited that, we're going to be able to get funding for that going forward. But with regards to our Guam residents, in terms of the filing of their returns, basically, if you were qualified to get EITC, and you continue to qualify to get EITC, you will just be paid it, and it will be seamless. There is going to be no change. It's really, again, just in the funding of the program for Guam.
Daph, if you could go back to the EIP 3, sorry, and just maybe go over the eligibility for it.
Sure. So for EIP3, and of course, the number one item that people ask is it based on my 2019 return? Is it based on my 2020 return? How EIP3 will work and how it is working or will work, and we'll issue our FAQs on it, is if you have a 2020 return, then we will work to process or make payment on your EIP3 based on your 2020 return. If you do not have a 2020 return that's validly filed and processed, and I always have to add that phrase, validly filed and processed, it's hugely important to the way that we implement here on Guam. If that return is not validly filed and processed, a 2020 return, but you have a 2019 return that's validly filed and processed, then we will use that return, the 2019. I've also had questions from people about, well, what if I'm a non-filer, meaning I don't file an income tax return, and so will I be able to get EIP3? Now, if you don't file a return, but you filed a non-filer return in 2019 and you're eligible, you will be able to receive EIP3 based on that non-filer form. I also have to clarify as well that that non-filer form is not something that we extended past November 2020. So although we allowed for this non-filer form, just like the IRS did as well, they allowed for a non-filer, a mechanism for non-filers to file that non-filer form, and that non-filer form, a portal that the IRS had, didn't allow for filings beyond November 21, 2020. So, we follow that. We allowed for those to be filed, but again, there is no non-filer form at this time. Again, if you didn't file a non-filer form and you wish to receive a EIP3, you will have to file a tax return for 2020. In addition to that, so that's just tax year. But what about income thresholds, right? So the way that the last three EIPs have worked is that the phase out for each of the EIPs has actually begun at the same level. So they begin to phase out at 75,000 for single filers, at 112,500 for head of household, and that at 150,000 for joint filers. The difference between EIP3 and the prior two stimulus payments or EIPs is that now the phase out threshold, meaning that when you get to zero and you do not receive EIP3 at all, that phase out is a lot lower. So for EIP3, if you are a single filer, and you make $80,000 or more in AGI, you will not receive an EIP3. And so for head of households, it is going to be, the phase out is at 120,000. So if you make $120,000 or more and you're a head of households, you will also not receive EIP3. And for joint filers, that level when you will not receive any EIP3 is going to be when you hit $160,000. So we see that although the phase outs begin at the same level, the actual point at which you get no EIP has actually been reduced. So, that's something different. So there might be people who received EIP2 or EIP1 that may not receive EIP3 just because their income levels are higher.
You guys got all that? Okay. Daph,
also, what I know that the other thing that people had questions about, Chris and Jason, was,
Daph, I don't even have any questions. I know you know what people want to know. So if I see something,
what about my dependents? Because there was this gap that was identified back in, of course, when the CARES Act first passed in March 2020. There wasn't payments for any dependents who were above age 16. So EIP3 allows for payments for dependents as long as you're eligible, of course, payments for dependents of all ages. So, there is no limitation in terms of the age of a dependent. And that's great news because, again, a lot of our people were not able to get that particular portion of the EIP because they did not qualify, again, because of the age requirement for EIPs 2 and 1, but that doesn't stand for EIP3.
We did
outside of EIP3, though, I'd like to share as well something that fell out of the American Rescue Plan Act that of course, that just passed in March 11, had to do with unemployment benefits and the non-taxability of the first $10,200 of unemployment benefits or unemployment compensation. And so, for those people who had filed their returns already before the act had become law, there was questions about, okay, if I filed, then what would I have to do in order to be able to claim that benefit or to be able to take that exemption of the $10,200 so that way either my tax liability is less or if I had a refund, my refund is more. And we did just issue guidance yesterday regarding that. And of course, on the IRS side, what is happening is the IRS has advised their taxpayers not to file any return because they're going to adjust automatically. On the Guam side, we had to really look at our own demographics, our own filing population, and determine how we would best be able to serve our people. And so, we had issued guidance yesterday, and the guidance that we issued, of course, provided advisement that in order to be able to claim that additional 10,200, you really have to file an amended return or a Form 1040X. So, we are not going to make an automatic adjustment to a tax return. If you wish to claim that $10,200 exemption from of unemployment and you've already filed a return that includes it, then you'll have to file an amended return. And again, that's hugely important. That actually, can be significant for a lot of people.
Daph, we did actually have a couple of questions here from Harvey. The lookup for tracking a tax refund on the website doesn't work. A RevTax employee even confirmed that. When will it be fixed?
So, you know what, and thanks, Harvey, for that question, because, I tell my team and I tell people anytime that you try to do anything things that you've never done before, you're going to kind of run into some issues, right? And so, you know what, I'm really proud of our team for working to get a lookup for both EIPs 1 and 2, and then now for the refund. I have been able to confirm that there are several people who have been able to actually log in. I've also tested it myself. I know that there have been some issues with some other taxpayers, with certain taxpayers as well. We've been trying to work out kind of some of the kinks in that. If you continue to have an issue with the EIP lookup or with the refund lookup, you can call us at 635-1840, 1841, or 7651. As I mentioned before, Chris and Jason, we did work to try to address the issue of calls. We've been trying different, things, different ways of trying to address. It is in the last month or so. What we did was we worked to set up, if you want to call it, or we call it our mini call center. We have a few people that are actually just focused specifically on answering questions. So, with regards to the lookup, we're proud that we were able to launch it. We know that for several people, it has been successful. For some people, though, who may have had issues with the lookup, we're working to try to make sure that we make it we address any of the issues that people may have. Sometimes the issue could be, and I have gone through this issue or this with people where I've walked them through it, and you do have to enter your modified adjusted gross income and not your AGI or your taxable, not your AGI and not your taxable income. So, it's very important as well as you go through the items that's required in order for you to be able to log in and check the status of a refund or of your EIP, that you have your tax return in front of you, and you or look at the actual technical terms. So I did know that as I talked with certain people, as they were checking, they were entering taxable income and not AGI. And when they entered AGI, they were able to obtain the information. So sometimes it could be, again, just, information may be entered incorrectly, or it could be, again, if there is an issue with the system, we're going to look into those things, and we're constantly working to try to improve upon it again. Anytime we do anything different or new, there's bound to be some things that we didn't contemplate. We're working through those issues now.
We had another comment. How about Social Security disability recipients? I'm assuming they're talking about the EIP3.
Okay, so for EIP3, for Social Security and other federal benefit recipients, we are going to be utilizing the list that the IRS had provided us for those federal benefit recipients. And so, if you were on the list and you had received EIP2, then, more than likely you will be able to receive EIP3. And that was something, again, that we had worked with the IRS on, again, to make sure that all of our federal benefit recipients, are included and are able to receive payment. There are federal benefit recipients who did file returns, though, Chris. And so, for those federal benefit recipients who file or who normally file returns, we urge you to make sure that you file. And that's because, again, if you are required to file, we always recommend that you file. There are Social Security benefit recipients who do also have taxable income, so they report those on their returns. So again, although Social Security and veterans, but VA and RRB recipients will, who are on the list from the IRS will be paid, we still recommend that if you have taxable income that you go ahead and file your returns.
We had another question here. There's a bunch in the comments stuff. When are license plates going to be processed for those folks with new vehicles? And then we also had, what are the turnaround times for amendments being submitted? And the 1040X for 2020 tax year amendment is not available on the website.
Right. So, okay, that was a few questions. So, number one on the license plates, I do know that, over the last couple of weeks, we've been in communication with our vendor for license plates. The last discussion that I had with our vehicle registration team was that we had a shipment of license plates that was be on its way to Guam. And so I'm not sure where that may be at this point. I'll have to check. But of course, once we do get that shipment of license plates, we'll work to get those out, especially to those to the dealers and to those people who might have temporary plates. Again, that's something that we've been working on. In terms of amending a return, we currently do not have a Form 1040X that you could file by e-file, meaning the only return that you can file e-file right now is just your original return. So if you're going to file an amended return, you can actually get online and you can type in Form 1040X. It will take you to the IRS website. You can utilize the Form 1040X and you can go ahead and file it, but you're going to have to file a manual Form 1040X at this time. We don't have an e-filed 1040X.
How's your operations going with like DMV side?
Okay, so as an update on the DMV side, well, we've been working to try to move out vehicle registration for a bit, and I'm excited. I'm very confident we're going to get our vehicle registration group, moved in this month, in the month of April. That we've been targeting for a bit to try to get them moved out, and so that we can serve our driver's license and vehicle registration customers 5 days a week. That's definitely going to happen this month. We're pushing. We are working with, of course, the Office of Technology to make sure the cables are run in the space, and we'll be advising of that once it's ready. But we feel like we're on track to move in this month, and we're excited about it because, again, that's been a huge part of our plan to be able to expand on the level of services that we're being able to provide for those customers who need the driver's licenses and vehicle registrations.
Have you guys kind of got a handle on because I know when people see all the cars in the morning, they're thinking, "Oh my God, they're overwhelmed." And so, have you kind of got a handle on the whole process of, I guess, handling? I mean, it's a huge demand, right, on the DMV side.
Well, I mean, you know what? I believe that we've been able to serve more people over the last several weeks than we did early on because, what we have been trying to do is try to accommodate as many people as we can. So what our team has been doing in the mornings when we have, whether it's driver's license or vehicle registration, of course, depending on the demand, is that we've been, working to try to get as many people to be served first thing in the morning. We've also been trying to get, I guess, identify or make sure that if there's opportunity for people to come back later in the afternoon, that we also give the people who are in the line already that opportunity so that, their time in our line is not wasted. And also, I think some people, have also been given the opportunity if they've come in the morning and they've been going through the line, but they were not able to be seen on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. We've been trying to get people to come in later, but again, we've just been trying to accommodate as many people as possible. We are excited, and I did mention when I was when I had the opportunity to speak with the Guam Chamber membership in the last week. I did mention that we are working on an online system for driver's license renewals and Guam ID renewals and replacements, and that's something we've been working with our IT, with our driver's license system vendor on. And this year, we're excited I really would like to get that done as soon as possible, obviously, but we're working with our vendors and with the Office of Technology to get those done. And we're expecting that that's going to happen within this calendar year. Of course, there's programming that's involved, and those are things that we're working on right now. Our team is working with our driver's license vendor on, but we're excited that that will happen in this year, and we are actually are hopeful that once that is launched, that will help immensely with the demand for driver's licenses and also Guam IDs.
Dafa, just the last round of questions because we got to get to Dr. Hoa, and I know it's Good Friday. If we have a scheduled Guam, if we have an appointment today scheduled at 2 p.m. but weren't contacted, is it still on? And then, do you want me to just read off the questions and then you can go down one by one? Because I know you got a good memory.
Sorry, no, I'm sorry to keep Dr. Ho, but you know what? If you have an appointment and you have an appointment with driver's license, or you have an appointment with another branch, that appointment should still stand unless you have been contacted to, so if you have an appointment, I suggest you come in. Also, if I might add, Chris, with regards to driver's license, for those people who are trying to get a driver's license appointment and they're getting online to try to schedule, they'll see that, it's going well into 2022. I do highly, I do highly recommend that, if you can, and if you are not in need of a real ID compliant ID and you need a renewal or a replacement, that you utilize our mail service, because we have that available. And so you don't have to come in and you will not have to wait. There are additional requirements involved, for example, taking a picture, having the form notarized, but that prevents you from having, or that you don't have to come in and you don't have to wait for you don't have to wait in line. So I highly recommend that people do that. The other thing that we ask is that for people who may have already been able to receive their license but have an appointment that's scheduled, and this is something that I've seen in other jurisdictions where they're also perhaps doing a cancel my appointment campaign, is, if you've already been able to be seen and you are, still holding an appointment slot, we ask that you please go ahead and cancel your appointment online, because it's only the individual who has the appointment at this time that can cancel those appointments. So, what we're seeing sometimes is for some of our appointments that we're having on driver's license, where, people had scheduled an appointment, but perhaps has already come in or has been able to get their documents, has been able to get their ID and, didn't cancel an appointment. And those are, some of the reasons why that we see, that there's a huge, that we have, again, the schedule going into 2022.
And then there was one more here. How about those individuals who did not get EIP payments for qualified dependents for the CARES Act due to revenue tax using the 2018 returns? And I think that would be for EIP 1. Can you just answer that, though, for any of the EIPs that have come out?
So for EIP 1 and 2, there is no payment for dependents who were above age 16. And that has not changed, and that will not change. Whether you file it as whether you get it as an economic impact payment or you file it as a rebate recovery credit on your 2020 return, if they didn't qualify because of age, they would not qualify. But if you didn't receive it for some reason, perhaps you gave birth in 2019 or you had a baby in 2019 and a 2018 return was used, then you will absolutely be able to get that on your 2020 return as long as you're eligible. It's important, though, people make sure that they fill out the recovery rebate credit worksheet. If you do have a tax preparer, they will definitely, they should definitely know about that. So, speak with your tax preparer about that, but make sure that if you did not receive it in 2020, in the last year, if you didn't receive EIPs 1 or 2 for your dependent and you were eligible, that you make sure that in your 2020 return, you correctly reflect that so that you can go ahead and get those payments.
Thank you, Daph.
Thank you as well. And have a great day. Happy Good Friday and happy Easter.
Happy Easter. Thank you. There you go. Dafne Shimizu, Revenue Tax. Guys, we're going in with Dr. Hoa, the chairman of the Physicians Advisory Group, right after the break. Again, this is the link on Good Friday. It's brought to you